It's Justin. The behind-the-scenes live stream starts momentarily. But first, thanks to our wonderful sponsors. I don't know if you just saw the news, but average U.S. household debt just hit $152,000. That's mortgages, cars, cards, student loans. But the national debt just hit $37 trillion. It's all going up. Ask yourself this. When the system hiccups, who bails you out? It's not the Fed, not the politicians, and that's why I own gold. Gold doesn't need a CEO, doesn't need missed earnings. It doesn't freeze your account on a Friday at 4:59. While they print, gold just sits there doing what it's done for thousands of years. Store value. If you're done playing musical chairs with your savings, get something real in your hand. That's why you should try our good friends Kirk Elliott Precious Metals today. Goldwithjustin.com. Kirk and the team going to walk you through what they're doing, whether you're a seasoned pro when it comes to buying precious metals or you're just getting started. Call Kirk and the team today at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, or go to goldwithjustin.com to find out how they can help you today. No pressure, just facts and a plan. That's goldwithjustin.com. Protect what's yours with gold. Goldwithjustin.com. Do it today. When the grocery shelves go empty, you're out of time. That's the truth. Disasters hit fast. Storms, blackouts, supply chain chaos, and the first thing to vanish is food. That's why smart Americans, just like you, are stocking up now with My Patriot Supply. You can go to preparewithjustin.com right now to get a 3-month emergency food kit, and they'll even throw in a free 4-week food kit to boot. That's 4 whole months of meals ready to eat. No refrigeration needed, all with a 25-year shelf life. We're talking breakfast, lunches, dinners, over 2,000 calories a day to keep you strong when everything else shuts down. So don't wait until the crisis is here. Order today, and it ships fast and discreet. Go to preparewithjustin.com. That's preparewithjustin.com, because when the lights go out, the last thing you should be worrying about is feeding your family. Preparewithjustin.com. It's here for Grand
Live from high atop Monroe Center in downtown Grand Rapids, we're talking about what matters most to you in West Michigan. Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on Wood Radio.
Welcome in. Well. Not everything is as it seems. Turns out we're learning more about what I'm calling like the age of the hoax. And, some of this I think I can explain to you. All eyes on Minnesota over the last several weeks. And I think part of this has to do with what we'll talk about today. We'll get into that. Our good friend James Dixon joins us at 9:35, talking about the changing climate in the media here in Michigan and why it matters to you. All of that and more on the way.
News, weather, and traffic. And the biggest stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now today's Big Three.
Yeah, you're going to be talking about these around the water cooler, the dinner table, no matter where you are. Our Big Three powered by our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage. You've watched those interest rates drop, and that's nice. Can that save you some money, put some more back in your pocket? Turns out that answer is yeah, probably thousands. Dave Galloway and the team at Heartland Home Mortgage is doing that for people. They've done it for us. So we've bought our home, we refinanced, and we did a home equity line of credit with them and saved thousands each time. Folks, this is something, if you're not doing it already, you got to look into it and see if there's a way that you can save some money, especially as the interest rates continue to drop. And Dave and the team, well, they're your first step, your first call. HHMlending.com.
Number one.
Yes, yeah, all eyes on Minneapolis. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but the video showing Ilhan Omar sprayed by that unknown mystery substance. We're learning a little bit more about it and who the man is behind the incident in these last few hours. Here's what happened yesterday. You can watch online if you're watching the behind the scenes live stream, and listen here on the radio.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or
She
face
is
impeachment.
giving a speech there at a town hall. And then this man walks up and sprays her with a decent stream. Looks like almost like a squirt gun. Some calling this a syringe. I don't know that that's what it is. The actions around the man, around her, and some others in the group right now are they're being questioned. I think rightfully so. I'm going to tell you why coming up here in a little bit. The 55-year-old man behind this, his name is Anthony Kazmerzak. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. Charged the podium and squirting her as that happened. She's uninjured, which thankfully is the situation. She resumed her speech a little bit later on. All this comes, though, as we find out news about that man who was involved with that scuffle and ICE. He was shot and killed with folks in a high attention on this over the weekend. His name's Alex Pretty. Well, turns out wasn't his first rodeo with ICE, and he wasn't exactly who he was painted to be. In fact, CNN the other day, they took an AI-enhanced photo to make him look more handsome, more attractive, and shared it online. Why would they do that? Why? Apparently, the guy wasn't currently working as an ICU nurse, according to the latest reports, and he had his rib broken just a week before during another scuffle with ICE. Not as innocent as apparently they made it out to be. I want to walk through that too coming up in a little bit, because that's important in the hoax dynamic. All this happening as the House demands Trump fire Kristi Noem, or they're going to start impeachment proceedings. Unlikely to happen there. Obviously, President Trump giving his full backing of Noem just yesterday. And then the borders are Tom Homan meeting with Tim Walz and Jacob Fry yesterday, it looks like, to discuss their ongoing enforcement in the state. Homan, now in charge of Minnesota, calling the talks productive, a starting point, noting agreement on supporting law enforcement and removing criminals from the streets. Both Walz and Fry pushing for a swift end to federal surges there. And then caving, essentially letting the federal government know, hey, if we have people here, criminals in the jails, etc., we're going to let you know who they are. We're going to let you know where they are. And turns out, looks like that might have been part of the art of the deal. We'll have to dig into that a little bit more coming up as well. Another day and never a dull moment, folks. I'm going to try and make sense of it all. We'll give you those stories and more here momentarily. Stand by. Here we go.
Call Justin now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Okay, so let me break this down. First and foremost, what I'm going to say, I know to people on the left, they're going to say, well, that sounds insensitive. It's not. In the day and age that we're in, you are kind of left questioning everything, specifically when the news is using AI-enhanced photos like CNN did the other day of this Alex Pretty guy. We are in a battle, and it's an information fight. It's a war. There's, obviously it's of spiritual nature as well. As the Bible says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That's absolutely true as well. But I think we're at a point in time where people are starting to really recognize, and now more than ever, I think you're right to ask questions. Unfortunately, I think some of that gets us to the point where some of us are headed down some rabbit holes that probably aren't productive. I'll say that too, so I'll couch it that way. But I'm going to tell you, I don't blame people for asking the question. Now, I'm watching this video, and I don't know whether it's fake or not, but I will tell you what people are saying, and I think why this matters. So she's giving this speech at the town hall, and this incident happens right after she really came under a massive spotlight. Yesterday, we had the story about millions of dollars in her net worth increase with her congressional salary, couple $100,000. How did that happen? Looks like there may be a fake winery somewhere out in California someplace, and they don't even have a website. Looks like they're not even open for business. This story gets traction, and it seems like it's right out of the playbook. Minnesota and the Somalis under spotlight for the fraud, the billions in fraud there. And then all of a sudden, we see riots break out. Now, they haven't broke out anywhere else. They haven't had the issues they've had in Minneapolis, right? Anywhere else. Not to the extent, anyway. So, yeah, and, there's a good point on the chat. We can't even get a conclusion to the story to one story before 10 more stories come out, too. That's another thing. There's a constant flow of these stories. And so when President Trump says fake news, now you can understand why. CNN doctoring photos, etc. So here's what happens with Ilhan Omar. This incident immediately following the spotlight that she's under for the fraud. Now, listen, that's not going to deter people from the investigation, but it might deter public pressure, or it might help her raise money to fight whatever it is. Think about the millions of dollars that are going to come in to help her. Now she's going to fundraise on this. I don't even know that I have to. I kind of can't think that I have to say this, but it's horrific. You never want to see anything like that, but I have to be clear with you. All bets are off, folks. We have entered into the phase where they tried to kill a president, a man running for the presidency, former president, several times. And those attempts continue to this day. We just don't hear about them as much because the Secret Service and he is the president. They keep that stuff quiet. And then we saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So the violence, we don't have to look much further, is happening on the streets every day as well. And these are things that lead us into this place of saying, well, I hate this. This shouldn't happen to anybody. And you've seen people have to come out. There's politicians, and particularly on the right, have to come out and say, this is horrible. I can't believe it. No one should. Of course no one should. Why do we even have to say that? Well, we have to say that now because we're in this weird time where the lines have been blurred so much by the behavior of some of these wackos, and most of them are on the left, that we've found ourselves in this weird place. So here's the video.
Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Now, she does flinch. Some are saying she didn't act surprised. She looks surprised to me. He walked up, he squirted this, and now he's going to make a statement to her, basically saying, no, I'm not going anywhere. And she does flinch and step back. And I think when she realizes he doesn't have a gun and it's water, that's when she sort of, now maybe I'm just being generous. I don't know. But I understand why people would think this possibly is fake or possibly is a ruse. Now, that man is tackled. She walks towards the man, which I think is strange behavior, and I understand why people would question that. She walks towards the man, but she may be walking towards the man because she sees the security's got him, so he's okay. I don't know. I can see both sides of that. And they've taken him down, and she comes back and she says, "We're gonna keep going." That's the other thing that's strange about all of this. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep doing the press conference here, the town hall. They're gonna keep it going, and then it sort of trails off there. Now, again, I'm telling you, I understand why people are asking, is this fake? I don't know. I can't tell you. I will tell you this. We will know because they'll investigate. They'll dig into who the guy is because it's a serious situation. Can't allow things like this. One day it's some sort of substance sprayed on her, and the next it's something even worse. You can't allow anything like this. Now, her security's a joke. I don't know how they allowed this. But again, it's water in a syringe or a water gun or whatever it was, so maybe they weren't checking for that sort of thing. That can get through a metal detector. Other people wonder, why did she continue? Maybe she felt like she should continue. President Trump, why did he get up and say, fight, fight, fight? They couldn't stop him. This is you make the case, well, she shouldn't have continued, because when you get something sprayed on you, you need to find out what it was, and it may be some sort of material, that acid or something like that. And we've seen acid attacks. Usually that comes from the other side of the boat, Muslim population. But
it is something that I do think needs a closer look. We'll get that. So just know that. I'm going to put all this, as I do think, this is kind of how, and this is my advice to everyone, because I get people ask me this all the time. This is kind of how I address all this. I consider all of these ideas, and I don't give any concrete weight to all of them. I'll consider it, then I put the ideas up on a shelf, and I go, that's interesting. Okay, maybe that's it. So I just warn you, don't rush to judgment, but also, yeah, you're free, and you should be considering all these issues. But why would you wonder if this is fake? Well, now we know that the guy they told us was a saint for the last few days, Preddy, was actually somebody who the ICE agents knew. According to sources, and this is CNN, folks, so please, especially if you're on the left and you don't like what I'm saying, just consider this. According to sources and medical records reviewed by CNN, Preddy stopped his car to shout and blow a whistle while observing agents chasing what he called a family on foot. He was tackled by 5 officers, suffering a broken rib, but was released at the scene without charges. So my question would be, and this is a good one, I said people asking this, when did he buy the gun? And apparently he bought it after he suffered those injuries. And then why did he come back? And the other thing that's very important to clear out here, because I've seen people on the right say this, Preddy was not at a protest. People are saying you can't bring a gun to a protest. He was not at a protest. He was obstructing federal officers, and he had a habit of doing it. Now, whether that means that the guy deserved to die or not, it's a whole other question. I just want to make sure that the story is clear here. And the longer we go, the more time that clears between all of this, we get more information. So Preddy, in other words, already known to agents for obstructing raids, his family mentioned unusual behavior like carrying a loaded gun that day, despite rarely doing so, which means he probably didn't have a lot of experience with it. And his scrub social media beforehand raises questions about possible retaliation motives amid the ongoing controversy over the incident as well. Now, this, again, I'm just putting these details out there because when you have more context, you can paint a better picture and you can have a better understanding of the world. So I don't know about Ilhan Omar and whether that incident was faked or not, but we will find out more. Again, it's a serious situation, whether it happens to a Republican or a Democrat or anyone. But we have to be aware. Glenn Beck warned about this for years, talked about the era of assassinations and where we were headed, and Charlie Kirk talked about it before he was assassinated. We're there. We've opened up Pandora's box. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You're going to pray for this country, which is what we will do. And then you've got to actively be involved in de-escalating it wherever you can with rhetoric and everything else. But the things that are happening online and the way the Democrats have painted this to be such a good versus evil in a lot of ways. And look, I clearly believe that some of this is not the way they do. But unfortunately, it's led people like this Alex Preddy, who probably had a good life ahead of him, all kinds of things, but he was looking for purpose. And that's how they radicalize. Even the young men, the young boys in all of these other instances, when they bring them in, get them involved in ISIS chats and things like that. That's how they do this. They're looking for people that feel hopeless, they feel dejected, they feel rejected, and they tell them you have a purpose. And then they direct that action into this political activity, which unfortunately can either go one of two ways. Productive, which is good. You want to know the difference between good and evil? Are your actions, are your thoughts, are your words productive, or are they destructive? And you don't have to look much further than the Bible. The God of the Bible, listen, we're talking about creation, creativity, the most productive thing ever. And destructive, that's the opposite. Because in the Bible, we know that the enemy comes only to kill, steal, and destroy. So again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but it is very important to have these details and have them all as we have this conversation. Call me crazy, but I've just always believed that do you need the information? You need to know the truth, apply it with logic and common sense. And of course, I feel like you'll be able to make the best decisions for you and your family when you do. Some call that radical. I just call that real. More of it, by the way, on the way. We'll get to it, break these stories down and more because, boy, do we have more for you coming this morning. It's West Michigan Live. Join the program anytime right here. Jumping in at 616-774-2424. Back after this.
Informative, engaging. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
January 28th, I'm Robin Poffman. The White House saying the largest tax refund in U.S. history will benefit folks who live right here in Michigan. This includes higher take-home pay and permanent increases to the child tax credit. The Working Families Tax Cuts Act is projected to boost 2025 tax refunds by $1,000 or more, with the average taxpayer expected to collect close to $4,000 this year. The legislation signed into law by President Trump back in July was supported by Republicans and opposed by all Democrats in Congress. In Monroe County, Michigan Congressman Republican John James discussing declining literacy rates and other issues plaguing Michigan's education system. James, the Republican gubernatorial frontrunner, discussing the decline in education here in Michigan under Democrat Governor Whitmer and how he intends to reverse the trend. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Is mind control real? Can you
All right. Oh, thank you, folks, for bearing with us this morning. What a crazy stream of events lately in the news cycle. Just appreciate you being here with us along for the ride. On the VIP this morning, Freedom Fam. Thank you, fam, for hanging out with us. I see Panda's here, Gretter's here. Good to see you, Mando. Hemi. Thank you so much, guys. Always a pleasure. Ross, good to see you, man. How you been? Ross popping in. That's so cool. Good to see you, brother. Nancy over on Rumble. Such a time as this. Beasley, Jen, Len, Mendo, and so many others on Rumble. On the book. Sean, good to see you. Jessica, Jason, Sherry, Bruce, Keith, Katie. Thank you, guys. Appreciate this morning. Like I said, what a day. What a day. All right, let me put that up here. Bring these two down here. Hey, let her know we're going to try and get to her on the other side of the break. Can she hang with us, please? That would be great. Back after we're checking our bottom of the hour news, we got updates for you coming up in just moments. Yes, the weather, the roads, little tougher today, I think, even than yesterday. Took me twice the amount of time to get in. Look, we want to make it as easy as we can on you. And by the way, thanks to Kevin Yoder, he's trying to do the same thing, especially for folks. If you've got seniors, maybe in your family, you're going through something similar to what we just went through. You know, this is a big deal when you got somebody who is moving out of the home that they've had for years, right? Loved one maybe moving into assisted living soon. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. You don't even know where to start with all of that. How to get it all done. Well, that's why our good friend Kevin Yoder and the folks at Yoder Real Estate and LPT Realty have built this senior smooth move system. Is to help families like yours. They'll prep and they'll sell the home. They'll line up the move and coordinate every detail so nothing falls through the cracks and you don't really have to do much of anything at all. We know that you got to focus really on times like that on what matters most. And it's a smart way to take control. Take the stress off your plate. You can schedule your free in-home consultation. They'll come to you when you go to seniorsmoothmove.com. That's seniorsmoothmove.com, or you can call 616-303-5671. That's seniorsmoothmove.com. But do it today. Hey, our news is next. All righty, folks. Stand by. Hang on 1 second. They're going to do the news bottom of the hour. I'm going to check for updates quickly, if we can here. Hang on. Boom. 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 All right. Got a lot to move around today, man. Oh, man. Okay. Alrighty then. Okay. We're good. Let's see what he's got going on here.
Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski joining numerous Democrats in calling for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to be replaced. Tillis telling reporters,
that's
quote,
not happening.
"What she's done in Minnesota should be disqualifying. She should be out of a job." It comes amid criticism of how the Department of Homeland Security has handled the shooting death of Alex Preddy by Border Patrol. Tillis also calling for White House advisor Stephen Miller to be replaced.
Not
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham tells Fox's Sean Hannity, good luck with that.
Stephen Miller is not the problem. Sanctuary cities is the problem.
President Trump says Secretary Noem is, quote, doing a very good job. The border is totally secure.
The state of Michigan requires that students go to school for 180 days out of the year. And because we live in Michigan, everyone gets 6 snow days to use. In a lot of school districts, yesterday's snow day was day number 6 or maybe even 7, like in Grand Haven School District. So what's next? Well, each district will need to contact the State Board of Education or request a hall pass, if you will.
What did Noem do? Nothing. She's effective. That's why they want her out. Hey, by the way, here's a great example. This guy, M.A. Rothman, who's over on Facebook, I follow him there, and actually interesting post here. This is along the lines of the Ilhan Omar incident yesterday. Evidently, he says, Ilhan Omar got squirted by a foul-smelling liquid from a syringe by a protester. Her immediate reaction was to attack him. This feels like a Jussie Smollett episode. I'm waiting for a news report to come out and say this guy was screaming, "This is MAGA country." And this is what I'm saying. Like, even if this is a real situation, even if it's a real incident, and may well be, I don't know. That's the thing, we don't know. You just have to assume it's real, I guess, until you find out anything different. But the point is that we've seen so many of these hoax after hoax after hoax after the 5-year-old last week. Oh, we're going to talk to James Dixon about this coming up here in just a second. So stand by. But it really is something. You got sprayed with some unidentified liquid. Would you go after the guy and then dismiss folks who suggest getting to the hospital and changing out of that outfit and instead continue with your speech? I don't believe you, he says. I feel like that's a very valid point.
Now, I can't tell you the way. I don't know, but I just saying, like, I feel like that's a very valid point. So let's dig in with our good friend James Dixon in about 2 minutes here. So just over the Pretty incident, that's why they're mad at Noam. I thought Commander Greg Bavino was who they were mad at. No, they're mad that Trump has been so effective, Jessica. Essentially, they're mad that he's been so effective at closing the border. They're mad that he's been so effective at locking some of these criminals up, getting these murderers, rapists, thugs off of the street. That's what they're really mad at. That's what they're really upset about more than anything. They're mad that he's brought the economy back. They're mad that the tariffs are working. They're mad that gas prices are lower than they've been in the past 4 or 5 years. They're mad. They're big mad. They just are. Hey, by the way, let me show you the when they say he squirted this after out of a syringe. Let me show you what they mean. Here's I've got the image, the big thumbnail up on our videos today. This is the syringe. That's not a small, and it doesn't have a needle on it. This is a syringe. Like, I don't know if you've got kids and you had to give them medicine, especially when they're younger. They'll call that a syringe, but it's not. And actually, this one's a big one. It's much bigger than anything we've given our kids medicine through, but it's a big one, and I don't know what was in there. Clearly, the guy's a little, this guy's out of it. If it's a real story, the whole thing is kind of suspect in itself. But it won't take them long to dig into who the guy is, his history, what he said online, social media, and the rest of it to know the truth. They just want this headline for today. They're going to fundraise off of it, and then we'll move on to the next thing that'll be outrageous. Now they'll come back to it. The leftists will come back to it. What about Omar? She was attacked. And they won't have heard the truth about any of the things that happened because the media cycle doesn't have time for anything. Was it pig fat, Brian says? I don't know about that. She doesn't have any more sympathy cards to play, Robert says. You know what? I think there's some truth to it. Hang on, folks. We are back in just a moment. Stand by.
Good friend Justin Barclay. The Glenn Beck program coming up at 10 on Wood Radio.
Welcome in. Let's grab a phone call quickly before we get to James Dixon, who is up next, joining us to talk about the big changing media landscape in Michigan, why it matters to you, and more in just moments. But first, and you can dial in, join us anytime. 616-774-2424 is the number. Carol in Hudsonville. Good morning, Carol. You're live on West Michigan Live.
Good morning, Justin. First of all, God bless you.
Thank you.
And God bless America. And
Thank
secondly, all this stuff that's going on right now, none of it, especially like 12-year-old little Jocelyn who got raped and was murdered, none of it would be happening if Biden and Obama hadn't opened the borders. None of it. We would all be fine and calm and whatever, or at least better off than this. And as far as sanctuary cities go, I don't know why people aren't prosecuting these people. I don't get it at all. All of us are waiting for jail time, and none of it's happening. And I don't get it. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. And Satan takes care of his own. They might want to remember that one as well. But yes, none of it would be happening. These people would still be alive if Biden, this is all on him, had not opened the borders with help. I do believe. So that's it.
Carol, thank you for your call, and I appreciate it. And to your point, and I'll just say this: there's a reason why Fry and the mayor of Minneapolis, and then and Tim Walz turned around. They did a 180 so quickly. And I'm curious to know, because a lot of information came out over the weekend about these signal chats where there was coordination about obstructing the ICE, the federal agents. We now know who's funding a lot of this. In fact, we'll try and get into some of this probably during the after show today. And I just wonder if that wasn't part of the call. To me, I know a lot of people are saying, look, this Trump caved on some of them. To me, it looks like Walls and Fry caved. And in fact, they're protesting in their offices yesterday, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I'm just curious to know if there's any bit of that took place. That Trump says, look, there's an investigation, and you two are already under investigation. Why don't we just make things, if you just let us have these, because that's what the deal, and by the way, that's what he always wanted. He always just wanted them to cooperate and let us know where these people are when they lock them up or where they have them in jail, they come into contact with them. We're talking about the criminals. That's what they've been. By the way, there's a reason that this is working. And I wouldn't want to be on the other side of this. We get the lowest, I think, murder rate since 1900. So this is all part of the pieces at play here, and I think you're right to ask about them. James Dixon joins us right now. The James Dixon podcast show, and of course he's on X, down I-75, one of the best places to watch. James, if you ever get a chance to do that, what he says, what he has to say. James, welcome in. I got to start you out with Omar, though. I know we want to talk about what's happening in Michigan, but this story about Ilhan Omar, people are looking at this, and I think rightfully so, wondering, hoax after hoax after hoax. I mean, we don't have to look much further than what we've learned about Alex Preddy from just the weekend, and then you go like a full week back and find out, ICE didn't arrest a 5-year-old. I mean, these stories are crazy. And I'll even throw this in there. I think the Trump administration is guilty of some of this as well. Some of the statements they put out this weekend were clearly not true either. And I think some of it is a rush to judgment to get to the media as quick as possible and get narratives and storylines put out there so that people can make their decisions. Welcome in.
Hey, good morning, Justin. Great to hear your voice. Yeah, I think ultimately we are in a post-news and post-truth world. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter what really happened. It matters on how you get the spin out there and how many people believe any respective spin that's offered. And so, do you believe that a man with a gun shows up and starts interfering with law enforcement as a peaceful protest? Do you believe that? Do you believe that Ilhan Omar in a room full of Democrats gets sprayed by someone who's not a Democrat? Do you believe this stuff? And so I think these times are going to call for us all to be discerning, because you can believe so very little of what you're hearing. We really have to get our own sniffers right, because there's a lot of false information out there. So we have to take that on ourselves.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is the tough part of the world we live in, and taking people behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made. In some ways, I think that's part of what you're really good at doing. That's part of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But you make a really good point on where we're at right now. I mean, you've got CNN using AI images to make Preddy look better than he was. Completely changing the look of the guy. I mean, this isn't news anymore. This is straight out propaganda. I think people are waking up to all that as well.
That's exactly it. We are in an information war, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The stakes and the territory that's being disputed is between your ears. It is for control of your mind, control of your heart, control of your emotions, your vote, how you're going to spend this day. Are you going to spend it watching MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and being afraid? Or are you going to be a happy person who goes along and tries to love their family and invest in their community? Everybody in the news business and the information business would prefer option A, where you are glued to your seat and all you do, your only contribution to this country is that you continue watching what they feed you.
What do you recommend to people who are watching this and how they question things? I mean, early this morning in the open of the show, I basically told people, look, you can consider, and you should consider these ideas as they come in. The best way I can describe it is I take these ideas, I consider them, I like turn them around and look at them, look underneath them, on top of them, try to, probe inside. And they take them and I put them up on the shelf. And that's interesting. I just put them up on the shelf and decide whether or not, okay, I'll come back to that later or not. Because a lot of this, it's coming at us so fast, James. The one thing is, with it real or not, and then the next pieces doesn't matter. How do people dig? How do they dig through that, sort it all out?
Honestly, and this is going to be unpopular, my advice is to care less. Right now, I'm in the middle of a tour called Make Politics Local Again. Going to be hitting places all over Michigan with the intent of explaining the opportunity that Republicans have to bring sanity back to Michigan in 2026. And so the national media wants to tell you that in November, that's going to be a midterm election with the assumption that everything's going to be based on Donald Trump and how you react to him. I don't view it that way. I view November as our chance to save our state. And so I try to focus on matters close to home. It's tough for me to invest in what's happening in Minnesota, except as it relates to Michigan. So, for instance, remember when those people, Don Lemon and all those guys, stormed the church about a week ago? That was the big story before Alex Preddy. You might be inclined to think that we're in a better position in Michigan because people aren't doing that. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They're storming churches in Minneapolis because Democrats, because communists feel under the gun. They feel that their power is being threatened right now, and so they're lashing out in desperation. So use national headlines to understand Michigan better, but focus on Michigan and your life will be happier because there will just be less noise.
Let's bring it back to Michigan, obviously, as you mentioned. Big news coming out yesterday in the media landscape, why it matters for folks that are trying to find the truth. They're just digging through all this every day, trying to get to the truth. But tell us what happened with the big newspapers in Detroit.
Yeah, yesterday they announced that the Detroit News, the conservative, at least allegedly the conservative newspaper in Michigan, would be bought by the owners of the Detroit Free Press. And that would be bigger news if for the last 36 years, the Free Press weren't the Detroit News' partner in a joint operating agreement. That only ended a month ago. And so literally a month ago, the Detroit News is free to go on its own. They can't use the Free Press as their excuse. Oh, the Free Press is why we don't have a Sunday paper. The Free Press ownership is why we're the smaller paper. They had the chance to go it alone. And after just 1 month, the owners cashed in their chips and said, we're selling out. We want out of the Detroit News business. And so now if you're at the Detroit News, you're in the worst position. Your fate is in the hands of your rival's owner. That's worse than being a stepchild. That's being a stepchild whose original parent has passed away.
What does it mean for the full landscape of media, news, and how people get to the facts in Michigan? Does it matter anymore? Do people even read newspapers anymore? Or, is it it's just another day in the D?
Here's the good news. Not much will change because over the last 15 years, the Detroit News has not been different meaningfully from the Detroit Free Press. Essentially, they're both liberal rags at this point.
Yeah.
Heather Dow, our friend, Patriot Post girl, made a graphic calling it the Democrat News. That's what you should just call it these days. So in that sense, nothing will change because the news has long strayed from its mission. The bad news is that this dynamic only gets worse. If the Detroit News, were led by someone who actually valued the conservative half of Michigan, it could be a powerful newspaper. But in its current state, essentially Detroit is already not a two-newspaper town. It's two half newspapers, both singing the same tune.
Hey, what do you got coming up on your big tour? I know you're out there going through the roads on the roads of Michigan. I'm looking at some of the past dates. It looks like you've hit a couple of great places so far. What's coming up next?
Yeah, next week we got 3 dates. We got Tuesday night going to be in Livonia, Thursday going to be in Farmington, and then on Friday going to be in Maybe, Michigan at the Little Brown Jug. Rep Jim DeSena, the state rep, is hosting me down there. And so what I find is a lot of people want me to talk about the case against Mike Duggan. There are some Republicans who are inclined to vote for Duggan because they know he's from the one conservative part of Wayne County. They think of him as almost a half Republican. And so I'm going out to disabuse people of that. But I can also talk Jocelyn Benson. I can talk about the overall importance of 2026. And so I put it out there, Justin, if you can get 10 Republicans in a room in Michigan, I will come speak to your group.
There you go, James Dixon. Follow him, obviously, at Down I-75 over on X, but the podcast and the tour, where can people get more info there, too?
Absolutely. JamesDixonPodcast.com. Follow me on X at Down I-75. And Justin, these opportunities are a blessing. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being here with us. James Dixon. There you go, folks. More on the way. The interesting thing as we continue to dive into these stories is there's more happening behind the scenes than you realize, and trying to bring you some of that truth, logic, and common sense is our goal here every day, as the stories are going to come at you faster and more furious each and every day. In fact, we've got a couple more that we'll shine a light on coming up. We have some good news, too. We should probably make sure when we get to some of that as the day goes on. The fastest hour in radio is flying by as we speak. So we'll fill you in and get to our after show, the show after the show, in moments as well. Lots of green on the screen as we check the markets. Dow, S&P, and of course the NASDAQ all up right now. Everything up. So no matter what it is that you want to do, when you want to retire, and when that day comes, whether it's 10, 20 years down the road from now, you may want to get ready. The folks at Town Wealth, Mike Lester and the team, can help you do what you need to do and get there without all the headaches and the hassle, right? Maybe that's you're watching the markets, the roller coaster ride, and you'd like to stay on without the nausea, right? Sleep well at night. Reach out, guardingyournestegg.com, or call 616-774-2424. 616-661-1000, 616-661-1000, or guardingyournestegg.com.
Tackling the hot button issues with style. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Wednesday, January 28th. I'm Robin Poffman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. He's running for governor here, and he has a ton of ideas. Michigan Congressman Republican John James in Monroe County discussing parents' rights and what he will do on day one to make our education system better here in Michigan.
We're also making sure that on day one, you'll be there if you come to the office, because when I swear in, what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be opting into the federal scholarship program that gives parents all over the state of Michigan the ability to send their child where they think they will be safest and most successful.
And the White House says the largest tax refund in U.S. history will be benefiting folks who live right here in Michigan. This includes higher take-home pay and permanent increases to the child tax credit. For these stories and more, visit the Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Explore, compare.
All right. Rolling right along. Like I said, fastest hour in radio. Just flying by, folks. Flying on by. Stick around for the after show, because that's coming up in probably 8 minutes or so. And we'll be rolling through it. Let's see. How about the AG candidate, the crazy radical left-wing Democrat that vows to kill Trump? Now, he explains it. So now this is, you talk about crazy language, but he explains it in a way that he's trying to couch it, but it is nuts. Some other stories that I found kind of interesting. If you get the tinfoil hat on, the doomsday clock moving closer to midnight. We'll tell you where it's at and why. Super Bowl teams won't practice in the 49ers facility, which was an interesting story in itself. And somehow that ties into data centers. We're going to have a conversation as we dig in on the data centers Friday around 11 for the folks on Locals. The Locals first. You'll get it there. Locals first, Friday at 11. And, yeah. And then also, let's see. Oh, I know you were asking about this yesterday, Sean. No Maha update today. Back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. We got some stuff cooking behind the scenes. Okay. Let's see. There's a couple things that I wanted to make sure that we shared with you today. Let me just make sure I got. The guy we're familiar with, Andrew Branca, who does all the breakdowns. In fact, he did it. He did it with the Patrick Leoya case. And Officer Sure. He is talking about analyzing the use of force from ICE and Alex Preddy, and he says basically what you would expect. Anyway, we'll get to that coming up in a second, too. But first, new polling from CNN that the Democrats won't want to hear. It's good news for you. Good news for me. Democrats will not want to hear this. Who cares about the Super Bowl? Yeah, I don't really so much. But the reason why the teams are saying they don't want to practice at the stadium, you will care about. Because it ties into data centers. All right, that's about all I can tell you. Hang on, folks.
By Michigan Auto Law, auto accident attorneys. Visit autolaw.com.
That's autolaw.com.
All right. Bad news for Democrats. Great news for you, me, and any other the truth, logic, and common seeking individuals in America. CNN with the poll.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity.
Everything you've seen of the last week, two, whatever it's been, is not moving the needle. People still say in a majority of ways that you got to get rid of these people that are here illegally.
All immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times, Marquette 64%, CBS News 57%, ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across four different pollsters.
The news influencer of the day, that lady over there on the left of the screen on CNN, she's like seething at this point. You can almost see the steam coming out of her ears. Not happy about this. Not happy about this. That number up from 2016, 8 years later, from 36 to 56%. It's jumped 20 percentage points. That's all Americans, not just Republicans, not just the MAGA types, not just Trump voters. That is all Americans, folks. And that is not what they wanted to see, as you got Walls and the rest of them fighting, especially as you start to see who they're actually arresting. I mean, the creeps of all creeps. That's just another piece of good news. More on the way. In fact, we'll unload. I got a whole stack of things still yet to come during the after show, the show after the show. So don't go anywhere. If you are listening on the iHeartRadio app, that's where you can download, watch it live or archived, and listen as well. And then Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, X, Getter, Locals, JustinBarkley.com, YouTube, all of those different places where you can interact with the show. In the meantime, the Glenn Beck program is coming up next with the latest on all of these stories and more. I'm Justin Barkley. Make it a great day, folks. God bless.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, we forgive those who trespass against us. It is not the nation, the lemons of evil, and its kingdom and our glory forever and ever. Amen.
From
Amen.
the retirement experts at Matson Financial Studio.
WOOD Grand Rapids, WOOD FM Muskegon. The news is next on Wood Radio.
An iHeart radio station.
Guaranteed human.
This is an important.
Okay. Hey, let me just address this. Okay, thank you. Tammy says sound is fine. Those of you, and if you have sound issues, maybe, somebody type in, Tammy did. I just wanted to make sure that sound looks good, because I'm getting some people say we can't hear. But others are saying, no, I've got sound. So I don't know why you wouldn't have had it. I don't know why, if it was like the video played, if you didn't have sound for that video. You should have. Did the people with the sound hear the polling? Let me just ask these couple of questions before I start, so I don't have to like reset anything or try to while we get into this. I don't think we will. But let me just make sure that before we click go here. All right, let me move. We got to move one of these things. All right, stand by. The after show, the show after the show. Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. Come in to the after show, the show after the show. That's right. Never a dull moment, never enough time to get through these stories. That's why we started the after show years ago, just for you. You asked for it, you demanded. We're giving the people what they want. Imagine that. You have a voice, and we're listening loud and clear here today. All right, big thanks to our folks at mypillow.com, mystore.com/Justin. Use that promo code. I saw Jason posted. I guess it's like the best price on the pillows I've ever seen, man. Well, that's the winter sale they've got underway right now, and also they're doing a closeout on the slippers. So if you want my slippers or my pillows, the best prices you maybe ever seen, get them right now at mypillowmystore.com/Justin. mypillowmystore.com/Justin. Either one of them. Pick mystore.com or mypillow.com/Justin. Both stores, and you can get all kinds of great deals on all kinds of great things inside the store. The dude says no Maha today. I know, Sean, and I told Missy, because I told her, I go, you got a fan base. But we both had things that we had to. So we're rescheduled. We'll get her back on. She's going to do an update again. We got so much to talk about. But I told her, you're getting a fan base. I said, Sean asked about you yesterday. I said, yeah, you know, he's going to miss you. I'm telling you. And I was right. But trust me, like I said, still lots to talk about. We'll try and get Maha Missy back on. All right. We've been through a lot. We told you earlier in the big show that Alex Preddy, and the details of reports are now starting to come out about it. This was not his first interaction the other day with federal agents. In fact, he tried to intervene, ran after somebody, I guess, tried to get in between ICE federal agents and somebody else that they were after a couple weeks back, and ended up getting some broken ribs or bruised ribs or something along those lines because of it. And again, when you talk about these situations, and you got people that want to jump in, and we see it both sides, that just sort of wanted to like weigh in and be judge, jury, and executioner in the moment. The best thing we can do, wisdom says to wait, gather all the facts. And one of the things that, you know, we did, and is some of that. Now, I said, even with all the things that I could see in the moment, it looked to me like, again, this never should have happened. The guy never should have been there. He never should have been doing what he was doing. It was not a protest. Let's remember, the guy was heavily involved, apparently, as it's coming out now, what we're learning, in some of these operations to go in and disrupt the federal operations. This last incident, according to sources and medical records reviewed by CNN, Preddy stopped his car to shout and blow a whistle while observing agents chasing what he called a family on foot. He was tackled by 5 officers, suffering a broken rib. Now remember, he's still got that broken rib, but was released at the scene without charge. Now, he should have been charged. Just remember that. He should have been charged. Maybe he wouldn't have been there if he was. But in other words, if you want to break all of this down to understand it further, he was already known by agents for obstructing raids. His family mentioned unusual behavior like carrying a loaded gun that day. A couple extra magazines. Despite rarely doing so, he'd scrubbed his social media beforehand, raising questions about possible retaliation motives as well amid the ongoing controversy with all of this. So, I'm just putting it out there. I just want you to hear it. I just want you to see it. And why is this important? It's important because it's context to the story. Context to the story. So now we jump to Andrew Branca, who's been on this program before, and he did great content, really analysis on the Christopher Scher, Patrick Lyoya case we had here in Grand Rapids, and live stream during the whole thing. Just found him to be very interesting, very informed, and he's got a report here. Liz Collin from Minnesota interviewing him on Alpha News.
Nothing's inconsistent with this being a lawful use of force by the officers.
Yeah, explain that a bit more. Many people still wondering if the shooting was legally justified, and given what you've been able to review up until now, what is your opinion?
Well, the legal question is, did the officers who shot Alex Preddy have a reasonable, not necessarily correct, but a reasonable perception that he was presenting as an imminent, unlawful, deadly force threat? And that's presumed to be the case. A prosecutor would have to disprove that proposition beyond any reasonable doubt. So it's a very high burden to overcome that justification. And what evidence did these officers have? Well, the moment Alex Preddy interfered with the arrest of the woman in the white coat, gets shoved by a CBP officer, he makes contact with that officer. The moment he makes contact with that officer, he's just committed a federal felony good for 8 years.
All right, this is exactly what I said. This is exactly what I said. They have an attorney who he deals with this. It's not just use of force by officers, but it's also use of force by individual citizens as well. He wants you to know your rights. So he wants gun owners to know exactly what they're up against if they get into a situation with a bad guy. So he's telling you what you can and can't do, and this is something you cannot do. And you're actually looking at it right here. The man, Preddy, making contact with that federal officer, his hand on him, and another federal officer looked like behind him or someone else. I don't know who this is. I think this is one of those radicals. But here he is grabbing the federal officer. You can see that hand. He makes that point. I don't know if I made that as clear, but it doesn't. Shelley, doesn't matter. I'd have to ask, how many shots does it take a man down? Not that many after that. Doesn't matter. All of that's out the window once this piece happens. When he touches the man, it's out the window. All of that's gone. This is all Monday morning quarterbacking. And look, I hate to see the guy. I hate to see what happened happen. I hate it. I'd see anyone lose their lives. But what happens generally in these situations is, unfortunately, people playing stupid games and winning stupid prizes. You do not have the right to go out and interfere in law enforcement activities. And you certainly don't have the right to do that when you're armed. You don't. It's against the law. And this is the find out era. Lots of consequences, unfortunately, coming down on top of people's heads. Here's more from
Makes contact with that officer. The moment he makes contact with that officer, he's just committed a federal felony good for 8 years in a federal penitentiary. That's why they were seeking to make his arrest, because they saw him commit a forcible felony against a fellow officer. Then he's non-compliant with arrest. He's fighting them. Then they discover he has a gun on his person. They take that gun. There's cries of gun, gun, gun. The officers call to each other. He's still non-compliant. They hear a gunshot go off, and Alex Pretty's right hand comes from his waistline with a black object in his hand. That combination of facts is going to get you shot.
I disagree, Shelley. We're actually watching it. We're talking about what really happened. We have facts now. We know. And there'll be more that will come out. So, I mean, I understand why we may want to just like sort of wait to get more information, but we have enough to know that the use of force, in Branca's opinion, was justified. It doesn't matter what you think. I this is the problem. I get we want to have opinions, but our opinions, they don't, it doesn't matter how many shots and whether the guy was pepper sprayed or not. All of it changes when he makes contact with the officer. He's no longer just an innocent bystander. We'll probably see all of this. Where's the ice cameras? Look, I get it. Just asking questions. What I'm saying is you can ask the questions, but here's what color was this gun? Well, it doesn't matter, does it? That's kind of the line of questions that we're in. It does matter what people think, but it doesn't matter what you think versus the facts that play into the legal argument of the situation. So that's all I can tell. That's all I can say. You know, the reason I'm being clear about this is, guys, I'm just trying to get our minds focused in the right way. Now, you and I may disagree, and that's fine. We can disagree all day long, but I'm trying to break down. You have an attorney. The guy's an expert. I'm trying to break him down. I'm trying to show you this is what I said the other day. I didn't hear, a few people I heard saying these things, a few others I didn't. I heard people on the right going, well, the Second Amendment, he's got a right. I said, this is not a protest. You're talking about people these are insurrectionists. These are people who are actually engaged. And this is the thing I don't think people understand. It's a civil war. That's what they believe they're engaged in. And I don't think the right understands what we're really watching play out. I think many people don't understand what we're really watching played out. Who it's being paid for by, and it's being allowed to happen. Terry, I'm going to get to that in a second. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, we got the source of the money. We'll talk about that here in a second as well. But Branca breaking this down a little bit more.
999 times out of 1,000 by law enforcement, and justifiably so. They're making all these perceptions, all these decisions in a violent, chaotic melee caused by Alex Pretty. They have to make all these decisions in a split second because that's how quick someone can use a weapon against you. And those decisions, again, they don't have to be correct. The law of self-defense does not require us to make perfect decisions. It requires us to make reasoned decisions, meaning you're applying your powers of reason to the facts presented to you. You're not making things up. You're not speculating someone could have a weapon. Now, probably the item in his hand would turn out to be maybe one of his spare magazines or maybe a cell phone, but it doesn't matter what it actually was. It matters how it would be reasonably perceived given that combination of facts. And reasonably perceiving it as a weapon is well within the realm of reason.
The sad part, and again, the tragic part is it never should have happened. I said this the other day. You don't have to go much further. You just look at the most simplest pieces, and you boil it down. That is the skill that I would love if I could teach, if I could pass this on. Yes, there's so much. And by the way, that's by design as well. There's a cloud. There's a fog of war, but there's a cloud in the info war out there as they put all of this stuff out there. Well, that's interesting, but it doesn't matter. 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 What matters is, boom, what I just showed you. His hand on that agent. That's what matters. What also matters is that he was actively engaged that day and before in doing what you just saw, interfering with this law enforcement action. So everything else goes out the window at that point. Everything else goes out the window. And remember, this isn't even ICE. These guys were Border Patrol.
I hate to see anyone lose their life. I don't care who they voted for, okay? Life is precious to me at every level. I want to make sure that we're very careful about how we go through all of this. All right. That being said, there's more on the funding of these individuals. In fact, Terry mentioned in the chat, Bill O'Reilly. I think this was News Nation the other day. He had this point about who is paying for this. Turns out it's a billionaire in China that's funding a lot of this. Now, the guy's not Chinese. I think he's American, but he lives in China, if I remember correctly. Listen to this and see if it shines some light for you. But this is a problem, and it might be what I said the other day, too, is that until we cut the head off the snake on this stuff, we're going to continue to see this stuff happen.
Here's the most important part of this whole thing, unreported, okay? There is a man in Shanghai, China, an American citizen. His name is Neville Roy Singham. He works with the Beijing government. He is funneling millions of dollars into the United States of America through 501s like Party for Socialism and Liberation, Democratic Socialists of America, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. There he is, okay? Connecticut-born, 71 years old, billionaire tech guy. He is funneling money here to these radical organizations who are then agitating professional people, communists mostly, because Singham's a communist, all right, to go in and foster rebellion. You heard that story reported? That is absolutely true. The man has been investigated by the FBI in the past, this Singham character, okay? This isn't some organic thing. This is a foreign power, Beijing, using this American citizen who lives openly in Shanghai in luxury, knowing that this man is funneling tens of millions, probably more, into this country to try to destroy the government. What the deuce is that? Where are you, New York Times? All right? That's the second part of the story. There's a local federal story, and there's the international story. And I've had it. You don't like what I'm saying? Blank you, because I'm telling you the truth.
Yes. You know, O'Reilly fired up, and rightfully so, because, again, I feel his frustration. This is a great point. And Jason said that this is here we are. Said that one person has been arrested for COVID fraud. Well, the people have been arrested for fraud, but I get what you're saying. Like, there's no Fauci and handcuffs. That's what you're saying, right? He says, just saying, meanwhile, we are arguing over use of force. This is the problem. This is the problem. And this is, again, if I could give you one skill set, if I could help people understand one thing, it would be this: to see the fog of war and cut through the noise. And that's what we'll try and do until we can pass this on to you, if that's even possible. But I'd love to give you that gift. There are so many things. And I don't know that I always see it. I mean, I do my best, but it comes with years of all of this and the wisdom. And then I think also a little bit of like just asking the Lord, like, what are we supposed to look at today? What are we really supposed to be paying attention to? So that is O'Reilly's point. And yes, this is that's a great another great point. Watch this clip. All right. Protesters walking up to a pickup truck, grabbing pre-printed signs like they're picking up supplies for a company picnic. And what's the point of all of this? Well, none of it is spontaneous.
Look at this. Here goes a group of professional activists renting a U-Haul, getting signs out of their trucks. This is not organic. These are the same printed signs. And now they're heading to the federal courthouse.
What do we want? When do we want it?
Do you know who's organizing this?
The PSL, Party for Socialism.
Oh.
Party for Socialism. You just heard O'Reilly basically have an aneurysm over this. This is what he's talking about. And this is the light side of it.
Okay.
Do you want to sign?
I'm just going to observe. Thank you, though.
Tuck in, meet your neighbors, because again, hey, remember, we're not doing this by ourselves, right?
Which group is organizing this?
Party for Socialism and Liberation. We've been out here for a few years.
He's got the PSL hat on. Where do the socialists get the money? None of them are working. Where do they get the money? They're funded by these billionaires.
How do you join? If you want to also donate?
It's pretty easy. You can look it up, pslweb.org.
They don't need donations. The billionaires are paying for it all.
Got it. Is there like a Minnesota or Minneapolis chapter?
Twin Cities.
Twin Cities. So, okay. So people can simply just donate and goes to signs and whatever out here to protest. Okay.
If we don't get it, if we don't get it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you got to understand. You got to really get what's happening. Why is it happening? Because America is back in the driver's seat. A big portion of this. They've always wanted to stop us. Now they see. By the way, now they see that Trump really is serious and going to actually do all of this stuff. I mean, this is. We're on interest. We're in interesting terms here. I can just tell you that much. And those paid protesters are out again. This time, guess where they are? At Tim Walz's office. They were inside, not happy with his cooperation with Trump. Do you imagine? They got played by Tim Walz. I'm telling you, I have this feeling, and I can't prove it. I can't. There's no way for me to tell you, just to say. I just have this feeling Trump, that phone call with Trump, with Fry and Walz went like this. We've got the investigations going on right now. Sure would be a shame. Sure would be a shame if someone got arrested. I just have that feeling that that's kind of how it went. And they're following the money. Treasury Secretary the other day said they're watching this money and they can see when it leaves and where it goes. He was talking about Somalia. I would say that it's probably, you're going to find out that they can see it all already. And I think a lot of us are worried about being tracked anyway. Well, guess what? They've been doing this for a long time. Here's Tim Walz on CNN last night with Anderson Cooper.
Anderson, how did that go? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, Tom Homan's a professional, which is a lot more than Bovino and Kristi Noem. But look, I think the thing we said is we're very clear about this, that we need these folks out of Minnesota, and we need justice for Renee Good and for Alex, and those were things that we came with. I think the thing that I'm most concerned about is the tone was different. There was a tone shift. I wish it was because of the horrific shooting that somebody saw some morality, but I think it's probably the press. But with that being said, I'm not interested in a more efficient Metro surge. I'm ready for them to get out of here, and I think that's where Minnesotans are talking about. So it was.
Then cooperate. Just like the investigations, cooperate or you're all going down, which I think is the most effective threat
here. It was progress. Look, I never got a call from Bovino or Noem.
Never.
Nothing. No, nothing. When they're coming here, and Tom Homan landed last night, and he called me last night and asked if he could have a meeting, and he was there at 9:00. So, look, I think that's progress, but they started this fire, so we're not giving anybody credit for putting it out. But right now, what we need is a return to normalcy.
Well, they started. They brought the illegals in. They allowed them to stay. Created the sanctuary city scenario. These guys, Walz is one of the most corrupt, most despicable, evil criminals. And speaking of evil, there's no other way to describe this, and that's exactly how I had to put it when I shared it on X last night. But there is a nurse. She's since found out. Let me just put it that way. But I'm going to show you. There's a nurse. Is this VCU, Virginia, maybe? VCU Health. There's a nurse that has been found out. Let me just put it that way. She's particularly found out. That was you think the syringe was bad? What you saw last night with Ilhan Omar? This was picking up. She's talking about doing things to ICE agents, federal agents with syringes herself.
I thought of something good. I think it's something weird. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine. Whatever. That will probably be a deterrent. Be safe. Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote. Anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands. All right, the single ladies where these ICE guys are going have a chance to do something, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. If they're an ICE agent, bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks.
This is just evil. Now, that's kind of funny, but the other things where she talks about what she talks about doing would cause paralysis. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, how bad it is. She's since been fired. That's the update. As I said, she's found out, as the kids say. She's found out era has found her. The update now, VCU Health, who she was employed by, and that nurse who is calling, and I think she's a anesthesiologist, calling on folks to poison and drug ICE agents has been fired following the report. Libs of TikTok shining a light on all of that stuff. This is the weird, whacked out, evil mindset of these people. I don't know if they can jail her for something like this unless she actually did something. They could prove it, but she could. I mean, just joking. It was just a joke. Speaking of jokes, how about this one? How about this one? They got Jussie Smollett's face on the body of Ilhan Omar saying, and then he yelled, "This is MAGA country." Oh, man. Oh. Never a dull moment for the hoaxes. This is why we're watching so much play out. You got to be able to, we really have to develop this, cutting through the noise to see what really matters most. And folks, what the truth is, it's not easy, but that's what we'll do every day when we get together. Appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you for supporting. By the way, join me inside the Maha Revolution, our mission. Man, I cannot wait to show you what we're going to do this year together. I'm down 30. My wife's down 23 pounds, and we are feeling better than ever. More energy. We just no aches and pains anymore. And my good friend Jim's down 25. He just sent me a message the other day. He was with us last round, and he said he dropped 25 pounds in a month. That's incredible. Join us today when you go to healthwithjustin.com, healthwithjustin.com, Maha, Missy, and the crew. You'll find out all the folks, the testimonies, the great job they've done. And you'll see it all at healthwithjustin.com. Make it a great day, folks. God bless.